Hello, welcome to Burkeaux TV. I am your host, Francisco Burkeaux, aka Burkeaux. So here it is to all my friends and family, the virtual tour of my art show, Sommes, Nous. And I also want to thank the Community School of Music and Arts and Ethica for just giving me the opportunity to display my passion on your walls. It was amazing. Thank you so much. Let's roll. The Colossi of Memnon. Colossi is the plural for colossus. On this picture, I'm only showing one, therefore Colossus. There are two remaining colossi standing right now on the city of Luxor. These statues represented the pharaoh Amenhotep III. A lot of my artwork is influenced by Egypt in some shape or form. Another place that has deeply influenced me is France. I had the privilege to visit France in 2019 with the Finger Lakes Community College, and this was yet another dream come true. This is a picture of Mont Saint-Michel. This picture is about an oyster farm in Cancale, France. Cancale is near Saint-Malo, which is in Brittany. It's right across from England, separated by the British Canal. Now, moving on to the next wall, the wonders of the world. There are 7 wonders of the world, and all of them are on my bucket list. So far, I've visited 4. The first picture here is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is an incredible white marble and ivory mausoleum. It is located in Agra, India. The next photograph is Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza means at the mouth of the well of the Itza. And Itza, it's a word for sorcerer. This was a ceremonial site in Mexico for the Mayan Quiche culture. It is located in Yucatan, which is close to Cancun. Incredible pyramids, cenotes, and statues of the god Quetzalcoatl can be found in this site. This next photograph is Machu Picchu. Also known as the lost city of the Incas, it sits above the Sacred Valley, and you can take a train or a bus ride near the Urubamba River, and it takes you all the way up to the citadel. I had the privilege to visit Machu Picchu and learn all about the Incas and their Quechua language and all their beautiful sites, going to the city of Cusco and many other amazing, incredible monolithic structures like Ollantaytambo and the Morai circles. The next photograph is the Colosseum. The Colosseum is an elliptical amphitheater in the center of the city of Rome, right next to the Roman Forum. It was actually named after the statue of the god Apollo, who used to sit in front of the building in the ancient times. Again, we run into the word Colossus. Construction began by the Emperor Vespasian in 72 AD and was completed in 80 AD by the next Emperor Titus. Five generations. This is a really important photograph for me because it represents 5 women in my family, starting from my grandma all the way to my niece. But what's really important and what's really cool about this picture is that when I visited my grandma in Mexico, I believe it was 2021, I drove all of them to this really small town in Mexico. We drove like 7 hours, all of us in the same car I was driving. I drove them to this place in Mexico called the Hot Land, and this town is called Huetamo, and that's where my great-grandmother was born. And so luckily the house is still like property of my family, so I took all of them and I took a picture of them at my great-grandmother's house, and that's pretty cool. Also, I think it's really interesting that they all have like kind of interesting names. My great grandmother, her name was Ezekiel, and then my mother's name is Talia. My sister's name is Carola, and my niece's name is Natasha. So I think it's kind of interesting. And then right next to the 5-generation photograph, you'll see my piece called Plato's Atlantis. And this is a digital collage. Part of it is a mirror photograph that I took in Kanyakumari, India, which is the southern tip of India. And then you'll see the statue of the poet Plato in the front, and then you see symbols from Pythagoras and Poseidon with the fork. And this is just my way with this exhibit, and just with pretty much everything that I do in my art. I just kind of like, I just try to make sense of what happened in the past. I like to read the legends, read the history books, watch documentaries, you name it. And I'm always like studying the ancient world because it's such a mystery that we don't know really what happened, and it's just so fascinating. And I think the Greek account specifically, along with the Egyptian and the Sumerian, are the most fascinating ones. And this is just kind of like my internal processing through images of what Plato says about this ancient civilization. This next piece is called Doomsday. It's just a classical paper collage. I love doing collages. They're so fun. They're really relaxing, and it's a really nice form of just spending your time and doing some art. It's kind of therapy for me. I put this in a shadow box, but the subject matter of this piece, it's always that has really interested me. The apocalypse, doomsday, monsters, creatures, cryptids, you name it. Anything that can't be explained, that's right up my alley. This whole exhibit, in fact, is about the stuff that we cannot explain. A couple of interesting facts about this piece is that if you look closely, there is a paper cutout of some of the KKK members riding a Ferris wheel down south. I believe it was the 30s or the 40s. I can't remember, but I cut it out of a newspaper article, and it was super funny. Moving on, we come to the Egyptian wall. And like I mentioned before, Egypt is one of my main sources of inspiration. Just the beauty of the hieroglyphs, the mystery of the religion. It's just such an old civilization going back to 7,000 years at least, with Narmer unifying Lower and Upper Egypt. And then you go into the Old Kingdom, and then you go to the Middle Kingdom, and then you go to the New Kingdom, Ramesses, the pyramids. But then after that, you get into the Greco-Roman period with the Ptolemies. When Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, he appointed Ptolemy to be basically the ruler of Egypt. And the Ptolemies is the dynasty that gives us Cleopatra a few generations after that. But then after that, they get conquered by Persia, and then after that, they get conquered by Rome, and then after that, they get conquered by the Arabic world. So Egypt is such a mosh podge of so many different cultures, so many layers of history, and I can't even express with words how much I am fascinated by Egypt. The Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, didn't call it Egypt. They call it Kemet. Kemet is the ancient Egyptian word for black sand, black soil, because this kind of soil, it was really fertile, and that's how the civilization came to be. So Kemet, black soil. And another really cool, interesting word that comes from Kemet is alchemy, which is a kind of like Arabic variation of the sacred science of Egypt. Kemet, alchemy, which is where we get the word alchemy. So the piece that we're looking at, it's titled Nubian Princess, and this is a picture of my wife wearing a pet crocodile on her head. And the story goes that when we visited Egypt, We went to far south to the town of Aswan. Really important town in Egypt, really beautiful. And Nubia is just to the south of Egypt. It borders with Egypt. So there's a lot of people from Nubia that have immigrated to Egypt, and we went to a Nubian village. And in Nubia, they a lot of people worship in Nubia, a lot of people worship the crocodile, and the name of the crocodile god is Sobek. And we went to this little village, and there was a little boy that had, more like a teenager actually, that had a pet crocodile. So he handed it to me, and I said absolutely not, because I do not love reptiles. But my wife was like okay with it, so she held it with her hands, and then the little boy said, "Let me show you something." And then before we know, he had put the crocodile on her head. So I just said, please don't move, because this is such an amazing picture, and that's how it happened. This next picture doesn't need an introduction, but I'm still gonna tell you a little bit about it. This is obviously the Sphinx of Giza, the great keeper of secrets. This is technically this is an androsphinx. What that means is that it has the body of a lion and the head of a human. There are other kinds of sphinxes. For example, the cryosphinx is the body of a lion and the head of a ram, and the Hyracosphinx is the body of a lion and the head of a hawk. The word sphinx comes from the Greek to swallow. Our next image is Anubis. Anubis is the dog-headed god that guides you into the underworld in the Egyptian pantheon. He's supposed to guide you and take you down into the Duat, that's the netherworld in the Egyptian lore. And then you have to go through a series of riddles and tasks, and you have to pass all of these tests, and eventually you'll run into the god of the underworld, Osiris. And Osiris is sitting there on his throne, and then you're gonna get your heart weighted, and if it weighs less or equal to a feather, then you're righteous, and you go to the Elysian Fields. That's also the name of the main avenue in Paris, Champs-Élysées, and this is the Egyptian afterlife when you did good, and this is paradise basically. But if you don't, if your heart is heavier than the feather, then there is a crocodile hybrid god that is just gonna swallow your heart, and then you're done basically. And moving on, we have the Renaissance wall. It's not technically the Renaissance art, but you'll get what I mean in a second. So for this wall, I decided to pair an architectural drawing with a photograph of the place. These are some of the most important buildings in the ancient past in the Greco-Roman fashion. All of these are basically an homage to the past. I am really fascinated by the architectural success that the Greek, the Romans, and the Egyptians had. So the first picture it's tracing over a Vitruvian cathedral. This is part of the 10 books of architecture by Vitruvius, and Vitruvius is one of the most important architects, in my opinion, the most important architect of the world, probably, of the world's history, because he took on the task of actually writing down everything that he knew about architecture, and because of that, we have that legacy, and we can still replicate some of the stuff that they did in the past just because he took the time to record it. So that in itself is really amazing. And And then paired to that Vitruvian cathedral, I have a very Vitruvian-like cathedral-looking structure that is just an amazing place to visit. It's just so mind-blowing. This place is ridiculous. I got the privilege to go all the way to the top and, look at the spires from really close up, and then you can overlook the whole city. So this is the Duomo Cathedral in Milan. After that, I have my architectural rendering of Notre Dame de Paris, Notre Dame of Paris, and unfortunately you cannot go inside right now because of the fire of 2019. I actually visited Notre Dame in 2019, and I got lucky and I went inside, and then 1 week after I came back from my trip, it burned down and it closed up. So I got really lucky that I got to step inside of this just amazing building from the past. And then right next to it, I have a picture of what it actually looks like today, in 2019. But I kind of took it as, when I go places, I take maybe 500 pictures of each building. So I have maybe better pictures of Notre Dame. But what I wanted to show with this side is that you can see the Seine River, La Seine, right next to it. And you can just get a different feel of the city from this angle. Then moving on, we go to Rome. Well, this is an architectural rendering of the Pantheon, the majestic building for all the gods with the magnificent oculus on top. It's basically an opening in the form of a circle of an eye. That's why oculus, it's the word for eye in Latin. But one of the most amazing features of this building is that the dome would be kind of impossible to build unless you take away some of the material. These squares that make up the dome are called coffers, and if you see, they are built in such a way that they carve out some material so the dome is not as heavy, so it can still stand even today. And then right next to it, of course, I have a picture of what it looks like today. And then lastly, I have my architectural rendering of the caryatides, and these are the pillars that hold up the Erechtheion in Greece, in the Acropolis. These columns are in the Erechtheion. The story goes that the Persians were in war against the Greeks, and there was a town that joined the Persians, Caria, and some of the maidens were getting ready to get married, but right when the war happened, the Greeks actually won the war, and they took the maidens of Caria as a form of humiliation and public display, and then they put it into a building to even preserve this humiliation act for history. So sometimes history is not very pretty, but what is very pretty is this building and what they did with these columns to support the weight of the building, but actually history itself. Moving on, we come to the lexicophiliac wall. Lexicophiliac is my side project where I do a lot of research of etymology, the root and meaning of words, and I just love deconstructing stuff, reverse engineering many things, and especially language and history is something that is really fascinating to me, and I like to go back and take the term and know where it comes from and get a little bit more understanding. It's just so fascinating to me. Lexicophiliac means kind of like an insane love for words. This project has been actually a blessing in disguise because what I do with it is that every Monday I post a new word and I pair it up with a digital collage illustration. So it keeps my art muscle going. Every Monday I have to create a new piece of art, and that's actually really good. I would encourage everyone who makes art, and probably you already do this, but to have a consistent practice, even when you don't feel it, even when it's hard. You just have to do it. I touch all of these really important things in my artist talk, and I'll leave the link in the description down below. So we have 4 pieces here. So the first one is Morgenmuffel. My German pronunciation is probably not the best because that's one of the languages that I've studied very, very little. So might as well just say it in English, Morgenmuffel. This word I absolutely love because it's such a funny word. Morgenmuffel is someone who is really cranky in the mornings. So nothing to do with my life. I'm a happy person. No one around me is like that. Obviously, it's just something that came up. And any likeness to reality is just a coincidence. So yeah, and then you get this really crazy kind of psychedelic Egyptian collage with it. I really like this one. And then the next piece is the logo of Lexicophiliac printed on a tie-dye sweatshirt. And I have I do prints on demand, so if you're interested in any of the words or the logo on a shirt, hit me up in the comments or send me an email. I'll put it down in the description, and I'll just customize one for you. I love doing this kind of stuff. Most of my shirts I acquire like that. I just like, what I like and how I like it, so I just order it. Or like, there's people out there that make really cool stuff. So please support local businesses. Please support artists around you. So if you're interested in any of these prints, I would gladly make you one. Then the next one is the word matzah. And matzah is a very special word for me because it means dough. It means flattened dough in the Hebrew language. I love this word because that's exactly how we say flattened dough in Spanish even today, masa. So can you imagine this word traveling from Hebrew into Arabic and then into Spanish? It's just mind-boggling. It's probably thousands of years old, and here we are just using it just the same. I love that. And then this one, and then the collage has kind of got like a golden era retro comic layout vibe that I really like. So yeah. And then the next piece is sarcophagus, and I love this piece because if you see those like skulls, those are my x-rays for my chiropractic. So I love introducing this into my art. I guess in this piece you can really see through me. The word sarcophagus comes from the Greek, it's a compound word. Sarx means flesh, and phagito or phagus means to eat. So a sarcophagus is a container that eats the flesh. And finally, we have the music wall. This is where everything started. I actually got into graphics because I used to play in a metal band a long time ago, and then I moved out of my hometown and went to my dad's house. My parents are not together, so I lived with my dad for a while. So I didn't have any people to practice with. So what I did was I started recording myself with my computer. Back in the day, I used to use this software called Fruity Loops, and this is how everything started for me. My love for art began with music, playing drums, and then moving into music recording and making a lot of what they call techno, which is technically electronic music. I do mostly drum and bass and IDM, but I also have some house, and I really don't limit myself, as you can tell in my artwork. I just try everything, and whatever sticks. I went to school for music recording, and then after that, I was having some friends helping me design my covers and stuff. But then I realized I want to do this. So I went to school for graphic design at Finger Lakes Community College, and here I am. The first image is the cover of my album Majesté, and that's just Majesty in French. I'm deeply influenced by French. I already talked about this, and you can also reference my artist talk, but Egypt and France are two of my main pillars in everything I do. So for this, I had so much fun doing an actual analog collage, just paper, and then a lot of the pictures that are in this image are actually pictures that I've taken at the Museum of Louvre. You can see actually the Cathedral of Notre Dame there. There's actually the Statue of Liberty. A lot of like places that I photograph, and then I just put it all together in one collage. And this is kind of like an allusion to a deluge, which is just another word for flood. So Majesté, that was an album that I did in 2020, I believe. Go check it out. I'll leave the link on the description down below. And then moving on, I have my 2033 album. I decided to go with the Roman numerals title because I am really into words and languages. So this is another collage. This is actually a digital collage. And this is just an EP. It has 3 songs. I love this album. I love this collage. Go check it out as well. The third image is for this special occasion, I put all of my music together into one compilation. So I created this collage, and it's partly digital and partly analog. I just discovered, even though I've been doing it for a while, that collaging is one of my main forms of artwork. I just love it. It's so fun to put images together, and then all of those, you can go listen to them. And then for Majesté, I did a special limited edition cassette tape on metallic blue, and that was really fun. Growing up, I used to watch all my movies in VHS and listen to all my music and cassette tapes because I was born in '87. So this is nostalgic for me. So I do have a cassette collection and a VHS collection because I'm obsessed with this old technology, and I just think it's so aesthetically pleasing. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. So thank you so much for watching, and this was an amazing experience. I hope that this motivates you if you're a young artist, and just keep doing it. It's hard work, but it pays off. And honestly, I'm really thankful for all of these opportunities. I'll see you in the next video.